So I have this issue where I run a piece of code. So I run a piece of code, and let's just actually make this a bit bigger as well. Control plus. In a loop every hour, and it sometimes runs for days, and then other times breaks randomly. And the code is linked to or uses, I should actually put this in the triple quotes like this, just so that let's just get the X, oops, not cuts and paste over there. So run a piece of code in a loop every hour, sometimes runs for days and other times breaks randomly during the day. Now the code, the error message that gets thrown up, if I can pull up the error message, is this odd error message. Where is it? Over here we get this error message, which is a device does not exist, but I know that this folder does exist because I use a relative path in my file system, and I can observe that the file is actually there. So there are two causes for the reason. So one is possible reason. Reason number one is that the folder does not exist, and reason number two is that the file does not exist. But for both of those, they can be countered, because solutions, we could do something like, if I was to attempt to pull it up, yeah, this os.path exists, so we need to import the operating system. And I might even, let's just get that. So we could do something like this, import OS, because we need to make sure that our folder exists and our file exists, and then something like, and we're going to look up our, make sure we get our spaces right, and then print, do something. Now the file name, we want to link it to any file in our system. So I might have, I'm just going to try and see if I've got a file that's in like my Google Drive or in a normal drive. Maybe I've got like a test file somewhere. Yeah, I do. So file name equals, and then put in our file name. So oops, like this. Now ideally we'd want to use a relative path actually, which is what I do with that, and that avoids even more things. So that's actually the path name, and then the file name would be, let's have a look. I've got I won't use an X, I'll use a test file.csv. I don't even know what's in it, so test underscore file.csv. Now, so if this works, else, not elif, but else, we can just say print This is a common pattern, by the way. The file does not exist. So something like this. Okay, that would kind of like handle your error. And what else can I do there? I'll import pandas as PD, because actually this is where the problem breaks. So import pandas as PD. Pandas is just a convenient way of reading a data frame. So now I can do, instead of do something, I can do data frame equals pd.read CSV and the file name, just like that. And that's pretty much it. So now I don't need to have this do something anymore, but we could say, for example, reading CSV and move that just up and above, and then we could have a read CSV afterwards if we want. But let's actually print out our data frame. So print df. I don't even know what's in the file. I could open up. I'll have a little open up of the CSV file. Yeah, nothing really. Something very tiny. So let's have a little read. Let's just run that then. So I believe that's it. So this is the solution here. Solution is check that both the folder and the file exist. Okay, that should do it, and we'll just run this piece of code. Launching. Hopefully we get a data frame that comes out of here, and we do. That was what was in the data, some random tiny little CSV. So it's read. Now this code runs, and it runs every hour, and then sometimes randomly it breaks, and it throws back this error message, and I stick this error message into like a ChatGPT or Google Bard. So this is the full error message here. Maybe I should break it onto 2 lines. I won't break it onto 2 lines. It's just there we go. We'll break it onto 2 lines just to make it a tiny bit more concise in my thing. But that's pretty much it. So the only other thing that it could be is that, well, I'll introduce a number 3, which is that check. And the reason why is this is on a C drive on Windows, so it's on my hard disk. But actually, I refer to, so I might have something like file name equals exact. Well, I might do exactly the same as here, but it happens to be on a Google Drive. And for some reason, possibly, maybe if the internet's down or something like that, maybe the Google Drive loses connection. So possibly loses connection. Not sure about all of the spellings, but I won't worry about it. But possibly, we possibly get a drop to connect, upper dropped. Possible dropped connection. There we go. Let's get all the spelling right. Okay. So that might be the case because it's on a Google Drive. So what we do is check that the connection that there is an internet. I think that's potentially the only last reason that you could throw an error message, as in you enter there and it, although you know that the path is a path that works and the file is a file that works, as in they both exist, so we confirm the existence of them. If you're accessing like a cloud type of thing, so like a Google Drive, for example, and it's not local on the PC, so you're actually accessing the cloud for some reason. If you don't have access to it, so the connection's dropped, well, this little pattern over here is now going to be deficient. So I went to Google Bard and I stuck in my full query, which is, in order to resolve this, I said to Google Bard, if I can, this statement over here. I plug this into Google Bard. Write a Python function that tests the internet connection. If there is a connection, then return true. Otherwise, return false. And Google Bard spat me back a lot of stuff. It's quite helpful. I could have used ChatGPT or any of the other ones, but it gives me back this little block of code, which I've just copied and will paste in here. So it's quite conveniently stuck if the name equals main, but the way that I'm running the code, because I'm doing it in a interactive notebook, actually I think the if name equals main will work here. Def is connected. So it's written back, sure, here is a Python function that tests the internet connection, import socket. So I can import socket, socket's a module. It says over here, this module provides socket operations and some related functions. On Unix, it supports IP Internet Protocol on Unix domains, and other systems it supports only IP. Okay, we'll see what that means. So I've never really, I think I've used socket, not that much. Functions specific for a socket are available as methods of the socket object. So, and I guess here, like, it's kind of like obvious what it's doing. So it hasn't commented the code. But again, def is connected, so I think we know what that is. It's created a function and it's calling it is connected, and it's going to try the connection. So it's going to try a socket connection. It's going to try and connect to Google, I guess. I presume it's on port 80. I presume that's how it works. So let's have a look. I go to create connection here. It's got an address. So and it takes a tuple. Right, it takes a tuple. Let's have a look. One's the address, and I imagine the other bit's the port number. And then it's got other things as well. So it could have a timeout, source address. It's got other things in there. But let's have a look there. Yeah, over there, convenience function, connect to address, a two-tuple host port, and return the socket object. So I presume it's port 80. Let's have a look at what happens. But basically, it's connecting to Google on port 80, and if it connects, then I presume we're going to get this connected, and we're going to get, so the print here, I don't need it, actually don't even need this if name equals main. I will just do print connected, just because there's nothing else in here at this point in time. So, and I'll put print. I won't even put it there, actually. I can put it in here. Checking connection. There we go. We're checking the connection, so we can see that like this little piece of code is being run, and I guess we'll either get a true or false. So I run this code, and it says checking connection true. I just wonder if I put, like, say for example, port 81, what actually happens. And there we go. It's hanging. Maybe it's hanging indefinitely, so I might need to stop the indefinite hanging with a timeout. Let's see what the timeout does on there. If no timeout is applied, the global default timeout setting is okay. I should give it like 10 seconds, maybe, presumably. So I might, I don't know on this one, but let's have a little think about it. I might have to stop this. I'll do an interrupt. Oh, it just actually did it on its own, I think, just before I did that. So bad on me. I was just thinking maybe import a time.time in C, but let's actually just impose a timeout then. So we go back to port 80, we'll do timeout equals, I'm just assuming, I don't even know this, I could pull up the docs, but I'm being lazy, just hoping it, if no timeout's applied, that what I'm querying is this in seconds, is a timeout in seconds. It doesn't specify it here, so I probably need to open up a or at least I can put in to Google Bard. I'm going to do that. I've got Google Bard on the side. Does create connection have a timeout? Does create have a timeout option? Which I know that it does. But I'm kind of like prompting it because it's going to tell me something. It's probably look up the documents and give it to me. It's a lazier way of looking for the documents. But it's got, yeah, here it is. So it's got 10 seconds, for example. You know, I'll copy and paste it. Just somewhere, I guess, into here, which I will remove afterwards. I could actually, I'll just include the Bard onto this, because it'd be quite nice to have it if I can do that. Add. Bard. Okay, and yeah, there we go. Google Bard on there. I'll still like shrink it down to the side, but I kind of like prompted it. It's a convenient way. I could have gone to the docs, but this is like a convenient way. Put it there, and I will just so like on the side there. It's going to be tiny in terms of writing, so you can't see the code, but you can see that I'm what I'm actually doing and how I'm prompting. And so like order, move that one to the back, move. Right. So there's a Google Bard, and I sort of like put the little prompt in there on Google Bard, and that's kind of like working. So, but what it's telling me here on Google Bard is, for example, the following code creates a connection to the website. And although it's tiny and you can't read it, I could copy that out for a second. It's telling me that it's 10 seconds. I'm just assuming that Google Bard has read. Sometimes it gets it wrong, so I'm not always I'm not going to champion say it always gets it right. But it's saying here timeout with 10 seconds, so I know what the units are now. So I know that this is 3 seconds. So we give it 3 seconds to run. So we just run this code again. It's going to obviously do the. In fact, so we go the connection equals true because that was port 80. So let's just go back now and we'll do port 81 and try and run the same thing. And it's going to hang, and hopefully it should hang for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and it does, and it goes connection equals false. So I believe that this might be the solution to. We've ticked this one off here, so that one's done. I'll tab it across. That one's done. That one's done. And these two were both done with this OS operating systems.path.exist. So these two are both done, and this one needs to be done separately, and probably in reality, if we're actually doing the whole testing and everything to make sure that we're live, because there's no point checking for if the path exists. So this one would all have to go up here, something like that. And then we could, like, if we were looking at our Google Drive, but you see the file does not exist, and that's because this file doesn't exist over here, because there's no G. So I could actually comment this one out. It should comment this one out. But now the full test will happen. So the first thing we're going to do is test for the test to see if we've got a connection. And in my case, I'm just testing to see if my Google Drive is up and running. Like, it might have gone down for like 10 minutes because my internet connection went down for 10 minutes at 5:30 in the morning, and that's what broke the file. And then afterwards, I can do this logical test to see that the file exists. But I know that this file exists. So. And that was a prompt I put into Google Bard, by the way, which was, if I pull up my Bard there, the first prompt. Where did I put it in? Right there. That's literally where I put this block of text. Write a Python function that tests the internet connection if there's a connection, so forth. And Google Bard is very handy. It gives you a description, tells you what it is. It never told me about the timeout. ChatGPT would have done a similar thing, and all of the other ones as well. I think was it Microsoft Bing would have probably done the same thing. They're all quite good now. Or I could have gone to the documents anyway to kind of like find it. But so sort of like popped out with that, and then I had to prompt a tiny bit to. I guess it gives some extra bits actually. It tells you all of the parts of it, which is quite nice. So import socket, it tells you what socket does. I didn't read what socket does exactly, but I sort of like got a hunch of what it does, and we sort of like looked at it in the pull down menu on our little system over here in the IntelliSense, so we could see it from there. But or not there, like you can hover over it here, socket, and it tells you what the module is, and you can sort of like read through it there. But it's got a little brief description as well, so we're really helped. Visual Studio Code helps us with the IntelliSense, and our chat GPT type of thing. In my case, Google Bard is helping me with code here. We've got to be a little bit more skeptical. It's like 75% accurate. But if you prompt it for like the basic things in the right way, usually it gets those. So like, I'm doing simple prompts, and it gives us a nice description here. So it tells me what the socket is if I needed to know a little bit more. The isConnected function, it tells me what the function is doing if I didn't understand it. Here it's telling me about the try and except block. So it's doing kind of like all of the components of it. And yeah, that's really it. So the final part really is to just run this piece of code the right way, and we're checking for the file connection. Oh, sorry, it's broken because port 81. So it has actually read it, although my connection is false because it's not using the internet connection. So let me just do that again and make sure it is on the right port, and imagine that this was on my Google Drive. So if I did place this same test file on my Google Drive, I know my Google Drive is working. It's up and running, otherwise my internet connection wouldn't be running. Check the connection is true, so it checks that first, and then I could do something in here like, I could, once that this function has done this like check is connected, I could put here something like and is underscore connected, which is already there, quotations, so something like that. That would be sufficient, and I wouldn't even need to test the connection. But what I might do is connected equals, and then is connected. I'll just do it like that, just to be sort of like explicit, and then go connected here. And we can see something, by the way, like if you hover over this function, you can see it returns a Boolean, because these are the only two options that come out. And if I hover over here, it's already sort of like type hinted to a Boolean, but like, I could say, boom, connected is now a Boolean, like as in specifically connected is a Boolean, but it's Python deals with all of this for us. It's nice to have the type hints in there, but the reason why I want to do that is just I might not even want to put the function in. I might sort of like want to test the connection first for other reasons somewhere else in the code, and connected, and that's really it. So I can sort of like run the code now, and it will run it if it's connected. And over here, if I do put a bad connection in, so it's more like the thing, because in my sample where it didn't run it, now it will check for the connection, and then hopefully it will say the file doesn't exist. So checking 1, 2, 3 seconds, and it says the file doesn't exist. So that's basically it, really. If you ever get this win error 433, if you ever get this error, the device which does not exist was specified. So it's looked for the file. It's looked for the folder first. It's looked for the file second. It hasn't found either of those, and that's kind of like the very, very common one. It's very rare actually to get this, but because I'm using a Google Drive and it's always on, and I'm not using like any syncing on the computer, you might get this every now and again if your internet connection drops and you so happen to want to like run the file when it does. So that's basically it. I guess I will label this video socket, because that's quite helpful. Check that your socket is working. If you like the video, if you found it useful, that'd be do a thumbs up or a like, and also be really helpful if you subscribe as well or follow. That'd be like really awesome, because I don't ask enough. I should ask. Please subscribe and follow. And also, if you have any better ideas about this, by all means, jump in and post your comments. If you feel that there is a better way of doing that. And that's really it. So that's the end of this little session, and thanks for watching.